Okay, passage 4. Here, please don't read the description, just read the first sentence if you'd like. It's a study on acceleration, so it's a physics related question. Skip the descriptions and the tables, and let's just jump to the first question, which is question 19 here. This question is a question that you would have to start by looking at the choices because you want to see which one's correct. For the first one, we're given that the results of study 1 were unrelated to study 2. Well, if we look at study 2 here, at the very beginning, it says using the time measured in study 1. So choice F is incorrect. In fact, these two studies were related. Choice G, this is about the masses and saying whether the masses that in only one child, the masses were equal. So quickly look at table 2. There's no mass involved in table 2. We only have to look at table 1. And find the correct column. So that would be the second column for mass A and the third column for mass B. Now the first row has columns, masses that are equal, but also we see that the 5th, 8th, and the 10th row have masses that are equal. So choice G is incorrect as well. Now choice H. It's saying that the mass of block A was less than or equal than that of B. Again, we only have to worry about table 1 because that's the only one with masses. And you see that, yes, indeed, the column of mass A is either equal to the ones of the values in mass B, the column right to it, or less than. So choice H is correct. And we can just do a quick sanity check here. Choice J is saying more trials were performed in study 1 than study 2, but study 1 per table 1 has only 10 trials, and study 2 per table 2 has only 10 trials. So choice J was incorrect, and our answer is choice H. For question 20, a formula is given, and please don't panic. This is not about solving a physics question. It's about finding the correct values and picking the correct answer choice. So let's find the where. First off, reading the question, trial 4. So that's where we're going to look at to find the appropriate values. And who are we looking for? Well, we're looking for the acceleration and time of block B. So that's the who. And the why is because we're finding those values. So let's look at table 1, since it's right here next to us, and trial 4. And we want to find the time. So time for trial 4 is 0.41. So let's jot that down. And then acceleration. So acceleration was in table 2. And again, it's trial 4, so make sure you look at the correct row. And acceleration is 5.94. So we can put that there. And the units are all the same, so we don't have to worry about units. And we just have to pick the choice that has the correct values, 5.94 and 0.41, which would be choice C. This question involves speed, time, and distance, and also unit conversion from centimeters to meters. But let's say you forgot the conversion of the units. For these types of questions, you can always eliminate 2 of the wrong choices by reading through the sentences. So we know a longer distance will take a longer time to complete. So let's look at the choices. And for example, for choice A, it's saying block B would have taken less time because it would have traveled a longer distance. Well, that doesn't make factual sense. So choice A is incorrect. And also, choice D is incorrect because it's saying more time for a less distance. So even if you forgot the unit conversions, at least right now you're picking between 2 choices. But let's actually solve this question. So now we're told that in step 2, so that's the where, that the block B, the who, was 10 centimeters. So we're looking at the beginning of the initial distance of block B. So let's go back to the study, and we see that initially it was at 0.5 meters. So let's bring that back down. So initially it was 0.5 meters. Now we have to see whether 0.5 meters is bigger or 10 centimeters. Now, hopefully you'll remember by the test time that 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So half of a meter, 0.5 meters, is 50 centimeters. So we used to be at 50 centimeters, and now we're at 10 centimeters. So our distance has dropped, which means the time to travel that distance would be less. So that would give us choice C. For question 22, we're told to look at study 1, and who we're looking for is that where one of the blocks is 0.8 kilograms and the other block is 0.6 kilograms. And the reason, the why, is because we want to see the time that it takes for the block to drop. The difference here in the question compared to that of the study is that the block A's and B's have been swapped, but nothing else has changed. So we would expect the same amount of time for the new block to travel. So let's look at our study, and we want to find the row where one of the blocks was 0.8 and the other 0.6, which would be row 9. And at this point, we see that the time traveled was 0.84. So let's take that down, and 0.84 seconds. Okay, so we're asked approximately how long it will take for the block to travel. So that would be choice J, 0.8, which is closest to 0.84. For question 23, it's best to first find the 3 W's. So the where first would be both studies because it says studies. And most likely that means we'll have to look at both table 1 and table 2. Who are we looking for? Well, we're looking for the studies where the mass of A was constant because it's saying for a given value of MA, and where MB, the block B's mass, is increasing. And why are we looking at these values? What are we trying to get at? Well, looking at the answer choices, we want to see the trend of time and acceleration when this pattern holds, where MA is constant and MB is increasing. So let's start by looking at table 1. And we see for the first 4 trial, mass A is held constant, it's 0.2. And as we go down the rows from 1 through 4, mass of B is increasing, and as mass of block B is increasing, time, as we go down the rows, time is decreasing. Let's do a sanity check and look at the next group of rows. So for trials 5 through 7, again, we see that mass A is held constant at 0.4. As we go down the rows, the mass of block B is increasing, but the time is decreasing. And you see the same thing for trials 8 and 9. So we found that time is decreasing. Now let's look at acceleration. So for acceleration, we'll have to look at table 2. And we see that for the first 4 trials, as we go down the rows, acceleration is actually increasing. We can do a quick sanity check for rows 5 through 7. Acceleration is increasing, and so is for rows 8 to 9. So our answer choice would be where time is decreasing and acceleration is increasing, which would be choice B. Questions 24 through 26 are questions where the test makers are asking about your scientific background. There will be 2 to 3 questions tops on the test that will have these types of questions. I put a little more of those on this practice test so that you guys can get acquainted with them and hopefully know them before the test. Now, for question 24, it's asking you about dependent versus independent variables. So this is a common question, so please learn it. A dependent variable is a variable whose values depend on the experiment. So the values, we don't know them a priori. We're going through the experiment and measuring the values. That's a dependent variable. An independent variable is a variable whose values do not depend on the experiment, meaning we're not measuring them as a result of the experiment. We're predetermined those values before we conduct the experiment. Now, for this question, we're asked about the mass of block B, mass of block B, we never measured it as a result of the experiment. We already knew the masses, and we were measuring time, and we were measuring acceleration. So for this study, mass of block B was an independent variable. So that would have been choice H. For question 25, you're being tested on your knowledge of potential energy. Let's say you forgot what potential energy was. You can still eliminate 2 of the wrong choices. So let's see here. We're being asked about when block B is dropped. Well, if block B is dropped, that means its distance has decreased. So let's look at which facts relate that information. So we see that choice A and C, these are saying that block B's height increased, which we know by the experiment is not valid. So now at least you've eliminated 2 of the choices and you have to pick between B and D. What you would want to know is that potential energy decreases as distance decreases. And because our distance was decreasing here, that means the potential energy of block B was also decreasing. So that would lead us to choice D. For question 26, you're being asked about your knowledge on kinetic energy and how that's related to a speed of an object. Let's assume that you forgot that, and let's eliminate at least 2 of the choices here. For block B, remember it was initially at rest, so its speed was 0, and then as it's dropping, as it's moving, its speed is increasing. So let's look at the choices, and we see that choice G is saying that block B's speed was decreasing, and also choice J. So those 2 choices are incorrect. And what you want to remember in regards to kinetic energy is that the higher the speed, the higher the kinetic energy. And the lower the speed, the lower the kinetic energy. Now remember, block B was initially at rest, and then it starts to accelerate and increase its speed. So therefore, its speed is increasing, which means as it's dropping, its kinetic energy is increasing. So that would be choice F.